Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Eric and I am the Fraudiophile. And today I'm gonna do a video about the best final albums of all time. We talk a lot about what the greatest debut albums are. We always talk about what the best albums are. On the other end of the spectrum, not very many bands do their best work at the end of their career. But there are some great final albums from some of my favorite artists, and I wanted to go through a few of those today. So, first up. Now, a couple of these are a little controversial or a little odd, at least. First I want to talk about is Jeff Buckley's Grace. It's also his debut album. Unfortunately, I think as most people would know, he died in an accident swimming in the Mississippi River while starting to record his next studio album. There is another album, Sketches from My Sweetheart the Drunk, but I wouldn't call that a completed work. I really think this would be considered both his debut and his last album. Cool thing about this one, I have a daughter who right now is 13, almost 14. She loves this record, loves tons of songs off of here. My favorites on here are Last Goodbye, it's Grace, but I know she loves this record too. Hallelujah is one that everybody knows. Yeah, great album. Sad to see him go so early, and just kind of wonder what kind of a career he would have had he not experienced that terrible accident and passed away. Now this next one, I'm calling this, again, their final true studio album. They had another album that came out years and years later that was put together with some outtakes from this. But I think The Division Bell by Pink Floyd is a great final studio album. When I did my ranking of all the Pink Floyd albums, this was right near the top. One of the main reasons why this was the first album I really got into from Pink Floyd. This came out when I was I believe it was when I was a senior in high school. This was really my gateway into Pink Floyd. Probably happened that way for a lot of people that are about my age. Even though Roger Waters wasn't involved, even though Richard Wright really wasn't very involved in this, a lot of people say it's a Gilmour solo album. Nick Mason's on here. I do think this is still Pink Floyd and really gets to the heart of what Floyd was all about, and a great final studio album. Another one from a band that didn't make a whole lot of albums. One of my favorite albums, I actually mentioned this in my last video as well, and that's Neutral Milk Hotel's In the Aeroplane Over the Sea. Kind of a funny story. The first time I've heard this, I can't remember if I've told this story or not on the channel, but my wife and I were staying in Eau Claire, Wisconsin at the Oxbow Hotel, which is a hotel that is partially owned by Justin Vernon of Bon Iver. We were there for a concert to go see Jason Isbell. And while we were there staying at the hotel, they have a little nicer than a Crosley, maybe, but a Crosley record player in each room, and at the front desk they have vinyl you can check out like a library. Saw this when I was down there picking out records. Didn't really know what it was. Know that I had seen the album cover before, picked it up, brought it back to the room when we listened to it, and we were blown away. Great album, complete piece of art from beginning to end. Can't listen to just one song off of here. You have to listen to the whole thing. If I could only listen to one song, it would probably be Two-Headed Boy. But this is just a fantastic album and a great way for Jeff Mangum to end the Neutral Milk Hotel experience. Another person who this was their last album, probably just because she was taken away too early, Amy Winehouse, Back to Black. It really hits that kind of 60s, 70s groove with this. Really found herself as a singer, a songwriter, and as a guitar player as well. I think a lot of people forget how good of a guitar player Amy Winehouse was. Great record, another one that you hate to see her career fade so quickly, in her case because of drug and alcohol abuse, but wonderful album for her last piece of art. Another band that I've sort of got into, never gotten really, really deep into them, and that's going to be Synchronicity from the Police. Sting went on to have a massive career after this. This one has some great songs on it. Every Breath You Take, Wrapped Around Your Finger, Synchronicity, but just a really cool album, and another one that was a nice way to end their career as a band. Don't know why, but I'm seeing Stuart Copeland pop up in all sorts of social media things these days. Kind of an interesting character, and strange to see he's the person now sort of out front when people are talking about the Police. Great drummer, innovative drummer. Another excellent final album, The Doors, LA Woman. Riders on the Storm, Love Her Madly, and obviously LA Woman on here. The other thing with The Doors, not only is this a great final album, I think The End is one of the best ever final songs on an album. Probably do a video about that at some point too. What are the best final songs off of an album? Another one of the artists, at least, went on to a very successful solo career. The other guy, not quite so much. Simon and Garfunkel, Bridge Over Troubled Water. So, of course, Bridge Over Troubled Water is one of the big songs itself off of here. Also, this one has The Boxer. I thought that was on this album, which is probably my favorite of all of the Simon and Garfunkel songs. One that was kind of formative to me growing up as a kid. My mom listened to a lot of Simon and Garfunkel and really made me appreciate harmonies. And still to this day is one of my favorite things in music, is listening to really good harmonies. And not many people harmonize better than Simon and Garfunkel together. All right, 3 to go in this top 10, and these are actually 3 of my favorite albums. I know we keep talking about people that died too young and passed away right in the kind of heart of their career. It's one of the reasons that their final album is one of their best. Not a bad album in the group here, and I could even throw Band of Gypsys, one of his live records, in there, but it's Electric Ladyland. It's Jimi, another person who died way too young. Completely innovative, just nobody cooler out there than Jimi Hendrix. Again, mentioned this in one of my previous videos. One of the coolest band names ever is the Jimi Hendrix Experience. You sit down and listen to a Hendrix album, it truly is an experience. I can only imagine what it was like to see those guys play live before Jimi passed away. But yeah, yet another great final album. All right, 2 to go. Now this one's a little strange just because it was their final studio album. It was released as their final studio album, but it wasn't actually the one that was recorded last. That's Let It Be from the Beatles. Abbey Road was actually recorded after Let It Be, but this is the one that was released last. If you've never seen the Get Back documentary about the making of Let It Be, check it out. It's super cool. It's neat just to see how those guys sat in their songwriting process and how they would play all of this, old school blues and kind of jump band music. And speaking of jump bands, if you're bored and looking for some sort of content, I started listening to a podcast called The History of Rock and Roll in 500 Songs. It's pretty cool to listen to. It's a super long series. I'm only, I think, 20-ish episodes in. Each episode's about a half hour, so it's about a 250-hour podcast. But it's really neat to hear the history of rock and roll and how things moved from jump music and swing and country and western. I'm just to the point right now of the podcast where they're talking about Bill Haley and the Comets and Rock Around the Clock. So it's starting to get into a little more of what you would actually consider rock and roll. So a good listen if you're looking for something to check out. But yeah, Let It Be. Great final record. This one has obviously Get Back, Dig a Pony, Two of Us, and Let It Be. Another one that my 13-year-old absolutely loves. And finally, another one that's near and dear to my heart, somebody who left us again too early. This was one of the formative records of my life, a record I listened to a ton, and was at that age where losing an artist was super huge for me at this time in my life, and that was In Utero from Nirvana. It's a great record. The first track on here, Serve the Servants, probably one of my favorite tracks to lead off an album. But yeah, it doesn't get much better than In Utero. Really hearing how they moved from Nevermind to In Utero was a pretty big change, and love hearing Kurt talk about, the Beatles and how they went from "I Want to Hold Your Hand" to Sergeant Pepper's, and how every band should morph and move throughout their career. And again, I would have loved to have seen what Nirvana could have put out if Kurt would have lived to put out more music. Pretty amazing that at this point we're talking about Foo Fighters having albums that are 30 years old at this point. So yeah, well, tell me what you think. What are your favorite final records from a band? For my shout out today, I would like to talk about Glenn and his Glenn Calloway from The Basement. Fun channel, puts out videos almost every single day. Talks about all different types of music, and is one to check out if you have never seen his channel. I will link to that here in the description of my video. So thanks again for watching. Truly appreciate it. If you like what you see here and you've never been part of my videos before, go ahead and subscribe. Like I mentioned in my last video, I'm hoping to start making these more often. I've done 2 this week. Usually I'm doing about 2 a year. So I feel like I'm on the right track. Yeah. Hey, thanks for watching. Take it easy.